Throughout history, certain figures become icons, their names etched into the fabric of culture and society, immortalized in stories and myths that are passed down through generations. These figures are often celebrated for their leadership, courage, or revolutionary actions. However, there are many others whose stories are not as widely known, but are just as impactful, if not more so. One such figure is Lozen, a remarkable Apache warrior woman whose courage, strength, and unwavering commitment to her people made her a pivotal figure in the history of the Apache resistance. Though her name may not be as widely recognized as some of the most famous military leaders or warriors of her time, Lozen's life and legacy offer a compelling and important perspective on the fight for freedom, cultural survival, and female empowerment in Native American history. Lozen was born into a world that was rapidly changing, a world where the Apache people, like many Native American tribes, were being encroached upon by European settlers and the U.S. military. The Apache, a group of nomadic tribes, had long lived in the southwestern United States and northern Mexico. Their lifestyle was built on deep connections to the land, hunting, gathering, and a complex social structure that allowed for both peace and defense. However, the arrival of settlers, combined with the expanding U.S. government, marked the beginning of a brutal and prolonged period of conflict. Lozen came of age during this time of upheaval, and like many other young Apache, she was faced with the harsh reality of her people's diminishing autonomy and increasing threats from both military forces and settlers. From an early age, Lozen exhibited traits that would set her apart from others. While most girls in her tribe were expected to focus on domestic chores and the maintenance of family life, Lozen defied these gendered expectations. She was drawn to the traditions of Apache warriors, their skills in hunting, survival, and most notably, combat. Her father, a respected leader in the tribe, saw potential in his daughter and encouraged her to learn the ways of the warrior, teaching her the skills needed to defend her people. As Lozen grew, she became known for her exceptional abilities in archery and horse riding, both of which would serve her well as she became a respected member of the tribe's warrior class. Unlike many other Native American women, who were more often relegated to roles as caregivers and keepers of the home, Lozen defied those expectations. She immersed herself in combat training alongside the men, showing an uncanny talent for battle tactics and leadership. Her courage, combined with her strategic mind, earned her the respect of the Apache warriors, who soon recognized her as not just a fierce fighter, but as someone capable of leading others into battle. Over time, Lozen became an essential part of the Apache resistance against U.S. forces and Mexican soldiers, playing a vital role in protecting her tribe's land, culture, and autonomy. Although Lozen's name may not be as widely known as other iconic figures like Geronimo or Cochise, her legacy is no less significant. She symbolizes the strength of indigenous women, whose roles in society were often overlooked or undervalued by outsiders. Lozen's life offers a powerful reminder of the resilience and determination that allowed the Apache people to continue their fight for survival, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Her story, while not as well documented as some, speaks volumes about the often hidden contributions of women in shaping the history of indigenous resistance and the ongoing struggle for justice and sovereignty. As tensions between Native American tribes and U.S. forces escalated throughout the 19th century, the Apache people found themselves in a relentless struggle for survival. Following the expansion of the United States westward and the imposition of military control over native lands, the Apache tribes, including those led by prominent leaders such as Cochise, Geronimo, and Victorio, mounted a fierce resistance to defend their way of life. Lozen emerged at a time when Apache leaders were actively engaged in guerrilla warfare, using the rugged terrain of the Southwest to their advantage in a long-lasting campaign against the U.S. military. But while many of these leaders are well remembered in history, the contributions of female warriors like Lozen have often been overlooked, despite their crucial roles in the resistance. From the moment Lozen joined the fight against U.S. forces, it was clear that her skills were unparalleled. She was a master of guerrilla warfare, blending into the harsh, rocky environment and utilizing the terrain to launch surprise attacks against U.S. troops. Her tactics were often centered around deception and speed, skills that had been passed down through generations of Apache warriors. Lozen was known to lead small groups of warriors in stealth operations, ambushing soldiers who ventured too far into Apache lands. Her agility on horseback and her proficiency with a bow and arrow made her a fearsome opponent, even for seasoned soldiers. Lozen's involvement in these raids was not just as a fighter, but as a leader. In many instances, she was given command of Apache warriors during critical operations. Her leadership was instrumental in organizing and executing attacks that allowed the Apache to continue their resistance. Her intelligence and ability to make split-second decisions earned her the respect of both her fellow warriors and the elders of the tribe. These elders, who were often skeptical of women taking on leadership roles, quickly recognized Lozen's remarkable talents and her deep sense of responsibility to her people. Her courage was not limited to combat. It extended to her strategic thinking and her ability to rally Apache warriors to fight for their land and freedom. Lozen's role as a female warrior in the Apache resistance challenges the traditional notions of gender roles in Native American society. While men traditionally held warrior roles, many indigenous cultures, including the Apache, revered women for their strength, wisdom, and leadership. Women like Lozen, who participated in combat, were seen as exceptional figures, capable of protecting their families and communities in ways that transcended the typical domestic sphere. In Apache culture, women could hold leadership positions and were revered for their contributions to the tribe's survival, especially in times of conflict. Lozen's ability to navigate the complexities of both gender expectations and warfare speaks to the unique nature of Apache society, where roles were not strictly defined by gender, but rather by individual capability and the needs of the tribe. In this context, Lozen's leadership was not only a matter of personal courage, but also a testament to the broader social structure of the Apache people, where honor, bravery, and resourcefulness were qualities that transcended gender. Her strength, tactical acumen, and the respect she garnered from male warriors highlight the critical role that women played in the Apache resistance, despite the dominance of male leaders in the larger historical narrative. The Apache people's guerrilla warfare tactics, which were characterized by hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, and strategic retreats, were vital in resisting the overwhelming force of the U.S. military. The Apache were able to continue their resistance for years, even as their numbers dwindled and the U.S. government imposed harsh policies, such as the forced relocation of tribes to reservations. Lozen's contributions to these efforts were invaluable, and her leadership was a vital factor in the prolonged resistance of the Apache against U.S. forces. While the U.S. military's efforts to suppress the Apache were vast, Lozen and her fellow warriors' ability to adapt to the changing circumstances and keep fighting speaks to the resilience and spirit of the Apache people. Though the exact details of her actions are often lost in the historical record, the oral traditions passed down through Apache families and communities provide insight into her significance. The stories of Lozen's bravery have been shared by descendants who continue to honor her memory as a pivotal figure in Apache resistance. Her legacy is a powerful reminder of the courage and determination that defined the Apache struggle and the vital contributions of indigenous women in shaping the course of history. Lozen's leadership in the Apache resistance was pivotal in the fight against U.S. military forces. Her role extended beyond mere military strategy, as she became a symbol of hope and strength for her people. Despite being outnumbered and facing an enemy with superior weaponry, Lozen's intelligence and tactical brilliance allowed her to orchestrate raids and ambushes that crippled U.S. forces and disrupted supply lines. Her deep knowledge of the terrain made her an elusive figure. She used the harsh desert landscape to her advantage, often vanishing before the military could strike back. Her role as a military leader was just as significant as her role as a unifier within the Apache tribe. The Apache people faced immense pressure from U.S. forces, but Lozen's leadership helped keep the tribe united. She guided warriors, both men and women, in defending their homes and preserving their culture. She understood that victory wasn't just about military conquest, but also about keeping the community strong and focused on their shared goal of survival. What made Lozen stand out was her ability to adapt to the ever-changing nature of the conflict. While many of the Apache leaders were focused on traditional warfare, Lozen understood the importance of disruption and psychological warfare. By keeping the U.S. forces on edge and unable to predict her movements, she contributed to the prolonged Apache resistance, demonstrating that even the smallest and most outgunned force could challenge a much larger and better-equipped enemy. Her leadership also showed the essential role that women played in Apache society. The women were often not the frontline warriors. Lozen's position as a leader challenged this norm. She proved that women could not only participate in, but also lead in the fight for their people's survival. This shift in the understanding of women's roles in combat had a lasting influence on Apache society, as it showed that leadership was not bound by gender. Lozen's resilience and strategic brilliance were key to the Apache resistance, inspiring future generations to carry on the fight for their people's freedom and cultural preservation. Lozen's legacy has had a lasting impact on Apache culture and beyond. In Apache history, she is remembered not just as a warrior, but as a leader who shaped the course of the tribe's resistance against the U.S. military. Her contributions have been passed down through oral tradition, inspiring future generations of Apache people to stand firm in the face of adversity. As a symbol of resilience, Lozen's story also highlights the role of women in Apache society. She showed that women could take on leadership roles just as effectively as men, defying traditional expectations. Her example empowered future generations of Apache women, proving that leadership and strength know no gender boundaries. Lozen's influence extended beyond her lifetime. Her leadership in the resistance has been remembered as an integral part of Apache history. It serves as a reminder of the strength and determination that shaped their survival. In recent years, Lozen's story has gained recognition outside of Apache communities as well. Her bravery and tactical genius resonate with many, particularly those who fight against injustice and oppression. Her legacy reminds us that the fight for freedom and survival never ends. Lozen's example continues to inspire those who struggle for their rights and their culture. Her impact on Apache history and her lasting influence in the fight for indigenous rights remain an enduring testament to her strength, intelligence, and commitment to her people. Despite her brilliance and leadership, the Apache resistance could not withstand the relentless pressure from U.S. military forces over time. As the military intensified its campaigns, the Apache warriors found themselves increasingly outmatched in terms of resources and manpower. Lozen's strategy of using guerrilla warfare and ambushes had been effective for many years, but the sheer persistence of the U.S. Army began to take a toll on the Apache. The loss of their traditional hunting grounds and resources, compounded by the increasing casualties from the prolonged conflict, forced many Apache groups into retreat. In the final years of the Apache resistance, Lozen's leadership became even more crucial. She focused on safeguarding the Apache people, Even as the battlefronts grew less favorable, she knew that the future of her tribe depended on protecting their culture and traditions, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Her ability to rally her people, even when hope seemed distant, became a testament to her unwavering leadership. But, as the years passed, the relentless U.S. military pressure and the encroachment of settlers on Apache lands made it increasingly difficult for Lozen to maintain her position of resistance. The eventual capture of many Apache leaders marked a turning point in the war. Lozen's name remained etched in the minds of the military leaders who sought to break the spirit of the Apache. The U.S. forces, now understanding the strength of the Apache's resolve, aimed to end the conflict decisively. Lozen's final years were marked by the constant effort to protect her people from being further displaced and subjugated. Despite her profound resilience, the war's outcome was inevitable, with the Apache tribe facing a forced relocation and the eventual collapse of their resistance. Though Lozen's later years were filled with hardship and struggle, her spirit never faltered. Her legacy remained alive in the hearts of her people, even as they were confined to reservations and subjected to the harsh conditions imposed by the U.S. government. Her resilience became a symbol of resistance, not just in the history of the Apache, but in the larger context of indigenous peoples' fight for autonomy and survival in the face of colonial expansion. Even though Lozen's life came to a tragic end, her legacy has remained a cornerstone of Apache history and a symbol of defiance against oppressive forces. In modern times, her story has been rediscovered and celebrated as an example of resistance, strength, and the indomitable will to protect one's culture. Her leadership not only shaped Apache history, but also contributed to the larger narrative of Native American resistance against the expansionist forces of the United States. Today, Lozen is honored in Apache communities, and her story continues to inspire those fighting for justice and the preservation of cultural heritage. Her name is celebrated alongside other great Native American leaders who stood against colonialism, and her story serves as a reminder of the powerful legacy of indigenous resilience. In contemporary discussions of indigenous rights, Lozen's life is invoked as a symbol of the fight for cultural survival. Her leadership exemplifies the spirit of resistance that has persisted for generations. Even as Native American communities have faced centuries of displacement and disenfranchisement. Through her courage, Lozen helped ensure that her people's struggle for autonomy would not be forgotten. Her enduring legacy is a call to action for all who fight against oppression, reminding them that even in the darkest times, the spirit of resistance can burn brightly. Lozen's place in history is not only secured as one of the most respected and revered figures in Apache history, but also as a figure whose story resonates with all indigenous peoples whose ancestors fought for their land, culture, and freedom. Through her life and work, Lozen continues to embody the principles of strength, resistance, and hope, standing as an enduring symbol of the resilience of the Apache people and all indigenous communities.